I had it complicated this morning. Is
this a big day Shabbos?
So maybe it sounded good a bris. I have to go to the mikvah and dive in a different menu. It was like complicated, but I'm here. Okay, we're learning the Malchus Shamayim. Kol amar b'lasaper b'yitzias Mitzrayim harezem meshubach. And what we learned until now in Sif Aleph was that the Yitzias Mitzrayim, requires a sipur, requires actual speech, actual articulation, as opposed to Pesach. There you go. Pesach. My mouth is actually saying it. Why does it require peh? And what Reb Tzadok explained was that just like the Jewish people and every human being can have a geula, go from a situation of slavery to a situation of freedom. So too, there's geulas hanefesh. Nefesh itself can have a geula, and hotzia mimasker nafshi lohodos shmecha. That masker nafshi, masker is like a jail, right? Hotzia mimasker nafshi, my own, how do we call it? My personality, my essence, what I am.
My peckle.
My peckle. No, but my peckle implies something which is separate from me. I'm talking about my me. My zich, as they would say in yeshivas, is imprisoned and counterintuitively in golus, meaning you would think something which is inside is not in golus. Golus means out there. But no, this is the golus. The golus is in here, and I have to be able to articulate. I have to be able to come out. Like we find in world history concepts of freedom of speech. But this is much deeper, that I have a freedom to say whatever I want to say. It's deeper than that. I have a freedom to express myself. It's deeper, maybe that's what it means, but it's deeper. It seems to me to be deeper to when we talk about even if I disagree with all of society, I'm allowed to express that. Even if I'm different than everybody in society, I'm allowed to express that. That's a geulas hanefesh. Might not be good all the time, but that's what it means. That's the word. Now Dovid HaMelech spoke of hotzia mimasker nafshi lohodos shebecha, that if I'll take my innermost self and bring that out through Pesach, through the expression of my dibur, so then it'll come out lohodos shebecha, it'll come out hoidah to Hashem. Okay, so it means to say that I'm articulating my innermost, deepest parts. So Dovid HaMelech, he was a king, right? He was a warrior. I'm sure there were a lot of things that were political. There were a lot of things that were bloody and not so pretty. But if you'll take the masker nafshi, if you'll take what's stuck in my nefesh, it's Sefer Tehillim. It's a different piece of Dovid HaMelech, which is the piece that we commemorate and the piece that we use and we daven with. Lahodos shmecha, shirais v'tishbachos, hoita. So when you start talking about Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim, it becomes a very deep thing. So I was thinking, he doesn't say this, I was thinking that this is the Pashut Pshat in the Haggadah, when we say, Filu kulanu chachamim, kulanu nevonim, kulanu yodim as haTorah, mitzvah aleinu lasaper b'yitzias Mitzrayim. That even if we're chachamim, we're nevonim, we're yodim as haTorah, means to say it's all there. It's all like I am Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim. You want to know the stories of Yitzias Mitzrayim? Just look at me. Here I am, Jewish. I know it klor. I have memorized it. I feel it. Chachamim, nevonim, yodim as haTorah. However you want to divide those. Chachma, bina, das, right? Afilu chachamim, nevonim, chachamim is chacham, nevonim is bina, yodim, as haTorah is das. So I've got all the madregas, but what's missing here? Mitzvah aleinu l'saper Yitzias Mitzrayim. I don't have the Pesach. I have the whole Chachma Bina Das, but I don't have the Pesach. So Mitzvah aleinu, that's the Chasidishe of the Haggadah. That's the simple shot. It's not the simple shot. The simple shot is that even if you know what you're going to do, but I think once we know this, there's a beautiful shot here of mitzvah aleinu l'saper. It must be articulated. Because if it's not articulated, it's still hidden. It's still imprisoned. It's still in a bechina of masker nafshi. It's still stuck in my nefesh. Still stuck in my nefesh. Now, I just want to explain a bit tangential, but not really. It's very important. The Nefesh HaChaim, after divided into Sha'arim, and after the Sha'ar Gimel, the Nefesh HaChaim has something called Prakim. Prakim. It's not a very creative name. I'm sure he didn't give it. But the reason it's called Prakim is because there's maybe 7 or 8 Prakim that 7 Prakim that the Nefesh HaChaim, 8 Prakim that the Nefesh HaChaim wrote without a title, and it wasn't quite safer, and they put it into the Nefesh HaChaim because it fit in between Shar Gimel and Shar Dalet. To cut to the chase, what it really is, these Prakim is an explanation of the Valozhiner view as opposed to the Chasidishe view, which of course was the topic of the time. On a deep level, the Valozhiner view and let's call it the misnagdim or the Litvisher view, as opposed to the Chasidishe view. And what's the philosophical difference between them? And here, I just read you a little bit. Paragraph of the Prakim. He says, Ad Kedei Kach, without mentioning the Hasidim ones, but I'm just telling you the inside story. He before. He says, at this point, by this time, it should be clear to everybody, Shezos Haderech, that derech, Eshu, it's a fire, Ad Avodain, which is destructive, Ad Avodain Teichel Chas v'Shalom, and it can destroy all of Yiddishkeit. V'Hayres says, Kama Yisoides HaTorah HaKadoshah. Pretty strong, huh? V'Darshu Rabbi Seder Zal, Ukvaris Karnal El Soif Shar Aleph. He says, and this is, in Parakeh, this is which we already spoke about in Shar Aleph. So it's mashma that he did attach this to the Nefesh HaChaim. Sha'ikar b'chol ha-mitzvahs hu chelak ha-meisa. What needs to be known is that the main part of every mitzvah is the meisa mitzvah. Okay, we understand this, right? That there's 2 parts to a mitzvah. There's you're putting on tefillin. So there's the kavanah hadvar, and then there's the lamaisa. You know, is it really square? Is it really black? Is it really in the middle of my head? Kavanas, there's the kavanas hadvar. This is Keneged Arosh. This is Keneged Alei. This is Chesed Gvur Tiferes, attaching myself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then there's the lamaisa. We all understand that there's 2 halakim, but hopefully we all understand that they're both important. But the question is, what's being emphasized here? So it says, ikar b'chol ha-mitzvahs hu chelak ha-mitzvah. The ikar is the mitzvah. Ikar is the mitzvah. V'taharas ha-machshava, this that you have to have, what he calls taharas ha-machshava, eina ela mitztarefes la-mitzvah. All that does is it makes your mitzvah more chashuv. It's mitztaref to the mitzvah. Well, a mitzvah, and it's good, v'lo li'ikuva. Ayat Sham, what he wrote. V'chein mavur l'chol masker yasher haylech. Anybody who knows how to learn will understand the Gemara in Zvachim Beis Amud Beis. It's as far as in Kachim as most Jews have gotten. Sharei Kaimalon, Be'inyan HaKrovas HaKarbanos, we know by Karbanos to Stamon Kilishma Dami. The Gemara says, okay, this is very important because if anything needs kavanah, it's a carbon. Other mitzvahs, of course, everything needs kavanah, but a carbon, if you don't have kavanah by a carbon, if you don't have lishma, which is the highest level of kavanah, by a carbon, it's avodah zarah. What are you doing? How do you start bringing, sacrificial things here? It's what? I mean, the whole point is that you're makriv l'Hashem. The guy can do the same thing, burning incense and all. But the whole difference is your kavanah l'Hashem, as opposed to tefillin. So if you don't put on, let's say you have tefillin and you don't have kavanah, so you put on tefillin without kavanah. But a carbon without kavanah is actually a chasar. Nevertheless, the Gemara says, the Gemara is worried about this, like wow, do you have to really be like a big tzaddik to bring a carbon? I mean, you have to really say l'shem yichud. You have to really hit a nibuchad of mezubah. What's up with the carbon? So the Gemara says not to worry so much about it. The stamon kilishma dami. That if you're now stamon, if I'm not mistaken, Rashi says doesn't mean that if we don't know what your kavanah is, we can assume that you're lishma. What do we have to do with it? It's not really our judgment call here. Stamon, a person himself. This is the way I understood Rashi. A person himself who's bringing carbon, the stomach's l'shma. Okay, meaning, just bring the carbon right. Just do the spritz your blood right, and as far as the l'shma goes, the kavanah goes stomach l'shma, stomach's l'shma. Well, what am I being makar? Being makar tashem. It goes without saying, and it almost goes without thinking that I'm l'shma. The Gemara Nazir Chav Gimel Halacha L'Maisa Oichel es HaPesach L'Shem Achila Gasa. The Gemara asks, what if a person eats the Pesach out of taiva? Gishmak, steak, right? Oichel es HaPesach L'Shem Achila Gasa. Says the Gemara, Nehid like Havid mitzvah mina muvchar, and l'chanami, you didn't do mitzvah mina muvchar, but Pesach miya ka'avid. Says the Gemara Nazir. But a carbon Pesach you brought, you don't say the mitzvah. Says Rabbi Haber, let's take it the other way around. Let's say a person goes to bring a carbon Pesach, and he has all the kavanahs in the world. He's a whole rebbe. There's mamish all the kavanahs in the world. B'shas Kavanos noiroi shalinina Pesach b'machshava gevaya shebegvayus u'toyros shebetoyros. It has the most deep and the most profound machshavos and kavanos while he's doing the carbon. V'chod al me'asis HaPesach, and so much so that he doesn't get around to actually bringing the carbon Pesach. Says Rabbi Haber, v'nichrasa ha-Nefesh HaChaim ikar. It's chayv kares. V'chein hu b'chol ha-mitzvahs, which I think is kal v'chover. Meaning, we all understand that in the carbon Pesach there's the chelak ha-miisa and the chelak ha-machshava. If you do the chelak ha-miisa without doing the chelak ha-machshava, stamad l'shmak. Stamad, it's l'shmak, you don't say. Pesach miya kavod. Achil shem achil gasa, which is even a negative kavanah. Shem achil gasa, kavanah hafchi. So nevertheless, it's a miisa. Pesach miya kavod. Nehi, the mitzvah, avuvcher lo yavod, avol Pesach miya kavod. On the other hand, let's say you have the most gewaldige kavanahs of the world, mamish, like kavanahs, but I brought the Pesach wrong, or I didn't bring the Pesach at all. Now, it means like this. By the way, I mean, as I always say, I'm not taking sides here. I'm just here to report the news.
Why wouldn't there be a Chasidishe?
A what?
A Chasidishe. It should be like together.
That's, I believe, where we are. I believe that's where we are. As I said the other night, the war is over. I mean, Hashem, I think we've all taken both sides of this. As I said, Purim in Lakewood looks like it's in Uman. these days. And if you walk into Satmar, which I did a couple of weeks ago, the kollel looks like brisk. I mean, it's not ain't bayat, like everything is all mixed up now. We have new politics, new issues. But I think that's over with already. But the point is the components of it, certainly as it was at the time of the Nefesh HaChaim, was that there was such a dagesh on the kavanah that much time the mitzvah was sacrificed. And of course the Chassidim would say, yeah, but if you're doing such a mitzvah, Chasidishe, like, so what are you doing? I think he actually goes on to explain this, but I just want to make it easier. It's really a fundamental, question as to what is the purpose of the mitzvahs altogether. Because if the purpose of doing mitzvahs is to be, let's look at it this way, is it to be misake the adam, or doing mitzvahs like the mitzvahs, the Gemara says, if it's to make myself into a better person, a better Jew, and have an Hashem, this world is the university of the soul. That's one side. Or is the purpose of these mitzvahs that we're doing, all of them, to l'sakin olam, the Malchus Shamayim, to bring the Malchus Hashem and make this world into a better world to live in. And if you've done it correctly, you're a better olam haba. But that's like almost a side thing compared to the fact that Hashem created this world and made this world, which, by the way, is what the Arizal says. So before there were Chassidim and misnagdish, the Arizal said clearly that the reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world is for Malchus, as I've said here a couple thousand times, and the reason why we're here in the world is to be Mamlech. And to do the mitzvahs is to be Mamlech. Just imagine for a second that every single human being in this world would be doing their mitzvahs and their tachlis and this world and believing in Hashem. Obviously there would be the same Hashem. Obviously there would be no wars, and there would be no crime, and there would be no, if everybody was doing mitzvahs, there would be goodness. So this would be a Malchus Hashem. On the other Olamais and planets, they would talk about, the earth, that's mamish the Malchus Hashem. That's, okay, if that's my tachlis, I'm a soldier, make my Malchus Hashem. Or is it that I'm put into this world as, I haven't counted, there's probably an equal amount of quotes this way, or an equal amount of quotes that way, or I'm put in this world to be misake by neshama, and it's all about me, really. It's all about being misake by neshama, and any part of this world which is interfering with the tikkun of my neshama should be isolated, or we should be isolated, and we should be in a very insular bubble, if necessary, whatever it takes to be misake by neshama. So the nafkamina, juxtaposition, I believe, in meisa and kavanah, because the famous Rav Label was a grandson of Rabbi Haber. Rabbi Haber was a misnagdish, like real misnagdish. His grandson became a chassid. Not just became a chassid, as Rabbi Shlomo Eger's son. Not only became a chassid, became a rabbi. I mean, if a Litvisher guy becomes a chassid, he becomes a rabbi already. He couldn't just go become a rabbi. So he became he took over from the Litvisher rabbi in Lublin. So you had the Kutsker, the way your Chasidishe tables. You had the Kutsker Rebbe in Kutsk, and then there was a breakaway from Kutsk, and the Litvisher was the big breakaway guy, and he went to Lublin, not to be pogay in the covenant of his Rebbe, and he started a new Chasidus, and from the Litvisher, the Litvisher somehow attracted all these misnagdim. You would have thought that if anybody would be attracting misnagdim, it would be like the Sfas Emes or something. But it was the Litvisher is so Chasidishe. It's so Chasidishe. So everything is like upside down there. But, so the Litvisher attracted Rav Label Eger. Rav Label Eger, he attracted Reb Tzadok, and other not as famous Litvaks that turncoated on the Litvisher movement and moved into the Chasidishe world. So, Reb Tzadok also, yeah, is Nechad HaGro. So Reb Leibel Eger was a moil. He was the moil of Lublin, the Chasidische moil of Lublin, and he had a minhag. He's supposed to do a bris. Ashkem Avraham Baboker. He's supposed to do a bris as early as possible of the day. Like if you're a real Litvak, you do it at Netzachava. Yashiv would like to have bris of it Netzachava, right at the Netzachava, Ashkem Avraham Baboker. So his minhag was to do a bris milah. I believe it's between Shkia and Seisak Echavim. That was his minhag. And the whole world, like, what kind of, what religion is this? Is it Shkia yet? No, gotta wait another few minutes. It's noch nicht Nacht. So until we do the bris milah. I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think that's exactly the way it was. And everybody's saying, "What are you doing? Like, why are you making brisim so late? Can I get Shulchan Aruch?" And his argument was, by the way, there's a whole tshuva in Reb Tzadok about this, defending Reb Leibel Eger. His answer to it was that I do it with more kavanah when I'm doing it later in the day, because then I have a whole day to be making myself. And I'm sure he was. This wasn't like shtick. I'm sure he was. I'm sure he toiveled many times and said many Kabbalistic passages until he did a bris milah. And who doesn't want their son to have a bris milah like that? Like it was the deepest of the deep. It was like such a strong thing, but the wrong time. So here you have a conflict between kavanah and miisa. Doing it right or thinking it right. Yeah. So as an example, so when you look at where the misnagdish were toifes the Hasidim, it almost always comes to this nakuda, and the nakuda really is it about dveikus b'Hashem and tikkun ha'adam and my relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or is it about just do the mitzvahs correctly? Be a soldier. Imagine a soldier in the army that decides I'm going to have my own little war going on over here, and I'm going to do it the way I think I should do it, and I'll do it better. I'll be able to take over the city better. Like, you got to follow orders, and you have to do it correctly, and you have to work as a team, and you have to make the Malchus Hashem. And there's a pecking order here that you can't change. So I believe that's the tension. As Eitan said, thank God we were able to compromise here and do both things correctly. We've learned how to do. I'm a tzaddik today, Bezos Hashem. I went to the mikveh. I don't know. Do you think Rabbi Valozhiner went to the mikveh before he was tzaddik? Did I one up him here? I'm not sure. Probably a Chasidishe thing, but because I was there was a Chasidishe guy, and he says, "I thought you were, you were like a Litvisher thing." So I said, "Go to the mikveh, like
He said that to you?
Yeah. Once I got dressed. Otherwise, we're all equal.
The Chavos Lavalos, I don't know where he fits into this because he only was a few
earlier
years before that.
Yeah.
But he's very strong in saying that the maisim without the kavanahs they're empty. They're really you're missing the point. He's like a seawolf of these two. No?
Okay. I mean, it could be.
Well, and isn't that pashut?
Yeah.
I mean, like.
It's pashut until.
Except at the extremes.
No, that's true. But it's pashut until the sociological problem of thousands of Jews becoming maskilim and Shaptians and every different movement that was out there, because the Baal Shem Tov and Talmidov held that they're just not feeling the spirituality. So he felt it was maybe in his right. I'm conjecturing, I probably shouldn't, but he probably felt it was within his right, Baal Shem Tov and his Talmidim, to move the dagesh to kavanah almost exclusively with an attachment to the mitzvah. It's much more spiritual. It's much more meaningful. You can spend the whole Kabbalah Shabbos, if you would spend it singing or saying the words correctly. You can spend it with kavanah only, and it can be a very, very spiritual experience. It is here. To me, it's a very, very deep, moving spiritual experience. So you're right. I mean, the pashtus is you have to have two. So I hope we're back to the chayvus halvavis, both things. So let me just read a drop further.
This raya from Zvachim. There are certain chazakas that we say, the Gemara says, that we don't say that in the halach.
We don't say?
The halach, we don't say that because of the Yusidor. We don't say that by certain people anymore. So could it be that the stima that he's referring to, Reb Chaim's raya, that in view of the...
We don't say stam and lishma anymore.
Huh?
We don't say stam and lishma anymore, you mean?
Right.
We don't karbanos because of that.
Could that be the justification?
Let's go a little further, we'll understand better. Loizo bilavad mitzvahs maisius. It's not only in the mitzvahs maisius. What are mitzvahs maisius? You have to put on tzitzis, you have to put on tefillah, right? You have to give tzedakah. If you give tzedakah, you have kavanah all day long. If you didn't give tzedakah, you didn't give the tzedakah. Right? What's better? To give the ani, 100 shekel without kavanah, or to have a lot of kavanah and not give the 100 shekel? Pasha, the kavanah is meaningless without a miisa. And the ikar is the miisa. Just give the money. You'll have your kavanahs on your own time. Like, I got to go to the next guy. Right? Kavanahs is not important to the ani. So that's for sure the chelak hamaisi, the mitzvahs where the ikar bahem hu chelak hamaisi. El shagab mitzvahs hatfila. Let's take tefillah. I've questioned this all my life. If you daven without kavanah, is there any value at all? What have I done? I said every word. What have I done if I'm down without kavanah? I don't. Says Chaim Valozhiner, "Shagav mitzvahs hatfilah shnikras avodah shebeleiv." It's all about the leiv. L'abdul Chazal b'reish parakam, the time is because of l'avdai b'chol levavchem. The ikar is the leiv. Im kol zeh. Nevertheless, ikar. I don't know how he knows this, by the way. Ikar, the main thing with tefillah is shetzarich ha'adam l'chatech misvasav dafke kol teva v'matmei ha'tefillah. The ikar is to say it, not just to say it, but to mouth it.
That's very true.
And to actually
Pronounce the words.
If he doesn't know he's standing before Hashem, it's ma'akev though.
we went over this stuff from Chana. The chsiv ba rak svaseha la'ois. Her lips were moving. Mikan la mispalo tzarich sheyachtoich b'svasav. As I say, I don't know how he knows that that's the ikar. I would say, okay, there's a din in Hilchos Tefillah that you have to articulate it also. No, it's the ikar. The truth is that before we say Shemona Esrei, we don't say Hashem, Libi, Pesach. Right? We say Hashem Sevasai Tivtach Ufi Yagit Tosach. Such an emphasis on the dibur. So, and then when we finish Shemona Esrei, we say Yu L'Ratzai Ibrei Fi Ve Hagyai Libi.
But it's not going to fit when you find that if you're not giving nibble, you don't let's see. You could do it again.
If what?
Even
Yeah, that's what he says.
If not, then you go and do it again and make it in.
Baruhu. So let's let him say. Well, Baruhu, it's clear. He's not just saying that there's a lechatchila that you have to move your lips. Elagam leikuva. Diavad. Shim hirer tevas hatfila belev levad. If a person would think through the whole Shemona Esrei, you're in a place you don't want to start. You're in a funny place. It's not a place to start davening Shemona Esrei. Baharer belev or Let's say you're in a Bagav belev. Lo yatsi yedei chayvas tefila klal. You haven't done anything. If it's still Zman Tefillah, tzarich lispalel pam acheres b'chitus v'sayim kol teva. You have to daven the whole thing again. If you thought through the whole thing with kavanah atzuma, you're with tears, and you're davening to Hashem, but you didn't say the words, you got to daven again. Viv avra zmana, and if the zman is over, tzarich lispalel shtayim. You have to daven to minchas, tefillah shachra. You didn't mishlo hispalel kol ikar, it's ki'ilu, you didn't daven. Nice, but no davening. Before the Magen Avraham, Simon Kuf Aleph, Sivkat and Beis, Barayas Nechaydos, he brings very clear, B'chein Pesach Al Ad HaMishnah Berurah, Shehema Kedai La'achriya B'tzedek, it's Kedai to go according to this Magen Avraham, to be hearer Atzvila Levad Lo Yatsa Yedei Chayva, with hearer without miisa, Lo Yatsa. So on the one hand, you have carbon, let's say, carbon Pesach, where if you have the miisa without the machshava, you're yotzei at least. It's not a mitzvah b'namuv chavri yotzei before Shlit'a. And on the other hand, you have tefillah, which is avodah shebalev. Like you don't have, it's mamish a leiv thing. It's all about leiv and machshava and kavanah. So it's all about leiv, but nevertheless, if you have leiv and you don't have sound noise, you have to daven again.
Is that true even for like one of the brachas of Shemona Esrei?
So it's a very, very interesting question. I was just thinking about this morning. The Chasidishe paskins that if you have a suffix, whether you had kavanah the avos, in the avos the kavanah is ma'akiv. First bracha Shemona Esrei, kavanah is ma'akiv. So if you don't have kavanah the avos, you have to daven again. That's the difference. If you don't have kavanah the rest of it, you don't daven again. If you don't have kavanah the avos, you have to daven again. Pashat Pshat is, by the way, that it's like bringing a carbon. If you, the avos, the first thing you have to do when you daven Shemona Esrei is identify before whom you are speaking, because you can have like tremendous regesh and tremendous emotion and tremendous kavanah and all kinds of things. But if you're not speaking to Hashem, you're speaking to the wall. So you get no credit for that at all. Even though you're davening, you could be davening, like chuckling and a lot of kavanah, tears. But if you're not davening to Hashem, what are you doing? It's just all it is just psychological. So the first step in the whole mitzvah over here is the avos. Let's get this clear. Baruch atah Hashem. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Hagadol, Hagibar. Let's set the stage, and therefore my whole Shemona Esrei is meaningful. So the halacha is if I have kavanah in all of Shemona Esrei, and if I don't have kavanah in all of Shemona Esrei, but I have kavanah the avos, so I'm yotzei because at least I know dalif lebiato oimed. But if I'm missing the dalif lebiato oimed, I have garnished at all. I don't have any. I'm not called tefillah. So what if the Chasidishe asks this question? What if I have a suffix, if I had kavanah or not? I know this Chasidishe well because I have the shiloh every day. A suffix kavanah. Was I mechaber, not mechaber? So the Chasidishe paskins that what do you do in such a case? So if you daven again, we don't daven to Hills L'Davos. So if you daven again, it's a suffix bracha levatal. So Chasidishe says you should go over the tefillah b'machshava.
We don't do Nedava?
We don't do the daven, Mr. Burr says. So, unless it's the halachas b'chayiv you to do the daven, then you can do the daven. We don't do the daven step. The halavai, she's palal kol we don't do. So he says, he gives us eitzah, so very, very simple. Do it over machshava. According to the Nefesh HaChaim, davening machshava is worthless. So I have a little Torah here that L'maisa, I said the words. That's not my suffix. So the chelak ha'maisa, I did. The only thing that's missing here is the chelak ha'machshava. So go over to machshava.
There's no two between the two.
No, I've got both components. They're just separated. Are you laughing because you agree or because you think it's right?
It's fascinating.
Chad the Chasidishe, I think. I mean, a pass for the Chasidishe to think this way. There's two halakim to the tefillah. There's the chelak habayis and the chelak hamachshava. The chelak habayis is no suffix. I don't have it's not like Kriyas Megillah that I say the word, that I not say the word, that I hear the word, that I not hear the word. I said the words. But on the other hand, like if you for sure didn't say the words, so you for sure to have it again. That's for sure. Even if you had kavanah. So V'yadua b'Zohar, v'kisvei Arizal. We could quote the Zohar or the Arizal. She'inid atfila hi tikun ha'olamos. V'yizalus pnimiyusam. V'bato l'malo. Understand this, that two main avodas of Judaism is Torah and Tefillah. And then there's Milas Chasad, Torah avoda, Milas Chasad. The difference between Torah and avoda, from a Kabbalistic point of view, is Torah is Bibalo Lamata and Tefillah is Bibata Lamala. When you're doing Torah, you're listening. When you're doing Tefillah, Hashem's listening. So Torah is, Hashem is talking, and now we're analyzing, learning, getting clarity in what Hashem said. Ibala Levata. Shtelshlis goes that way. When I'm davening, I'm going through the same Olamos, but it's a dusy tree. Right? I'm going the other direction. Both of them are Tikkun Olamos and Hiskashrus Olamos, Lufi Hazayer. By learning Torah, which is, by the way, also interesting, has become a great divide between Chasidim and misnagdish. As I said the other night, like the Welt says, when you daven like a Chasid. When you learn like a Litvak. I don't buy it, but that's what I learned in yeshivas. But the idea is, like, if you're coming from up to down, we've got that better. We meaning Litvaks. If you're going from down to up, the Chasidim know how to do that. Like, they know how to drive this street better, and we know how to drive that street better. We need to combine the whole thing and go both directions safely. That's what we need to do. But in terms of these kashrus ha'ilabais, tikkun ha'ilabais, these alus pnimiyusam, we shouldn't think we're davening here. When you're davening, Rabbi Chaim is explaining to us. He explains the whole Shar Beis is about this exact point. The whole Shar Beis of Nefesh HaChaim is that when you're davening, you're going from this world to higher worlds, and you're misaking until you get to the Kisei HaKavod, or higher. So it's a real trip, this davening. However, if he's going to say, and I'm running out of time, so I'm going to say, if you take this whole trip and you take it all the way up, let's say tefillah, but it's not hooked up to the world, it's not grounded, it's not down to earth. So you're makasher exactly what to the Olamos Eliyos? What have you done? If you start here and you work up, beautiful. But until you pull the wagon, you haven't actually done anything. You have done a lot in the Tikkun Ha'atam. You may have done a lot even in the Tikkun Olamos. But you haven't done anything in this world. Hence, you haven't been Mekayim, the Tikkun of the world, so Hashem Svasai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tilasecha. So Hashem, open up my lips, so that I can get it going from this world. On the other hand, the Tikkun of Torah, okay, hear her Torah, but Mekayimos HaTinoifos, Sugya. But the Torah is coming from the highest place, Abish from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the idea is, ironically, the Shita of the Rav Shulchan Aruch, the Chasidishe Pesach, is if the Torah is not articulated, Babish B'Svasayim, you can't make a bracha on it. And it's interesting, the bracha that he says to make, according to, if you open up a Chabad seder, is Asher Kishanu B'Svasayim V'Tzivanu Al Divrei Torah, Dvar, Diburim, Divrei Torah. The bracha then, what's the bracha you make? Lasa. Wait, it's an ironic twist. But kasha. But la'asoik b'divrei Torah, the idea of bein labar, v'bein labar. The idea is that this very high thing very spiritual, very esoteric body of knowledge called Torah is coming through the Olamais, and it's starting to look like, like whatever spiritual things look like, I don't know, but it's starting to look like a cow and a knife and milk and meat and wool and linen and fields and agriculture and Hasloisasik Vloreu and being imagined, like it's taking on all this Gashmius form. Ad Kedei Limud HaTorah, where I'm actually being Moitzi B'Sfasayim, I'm actually saying it out with my lips, L'Kula Alba. So you're going from a very high place, hooking it into the world, or in the case of Tefillah, you're taking the world, grabbing it and hooking and going back up. So we have in both cases, Lefi Hazoyhar and Lefi Harizal, it's all about being Makasher, this soil with this soil. It has many names. Atzilus, Bria, Yitzira, Asiya. Or, in more Litvisher circles, Machshava, Dibor, Meisa. Same thing. It's the same thing. Or Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. It's all the same. The Naran. It's all the same thing. The Neshama is here. Nefesh is very much here.
It seems like the central point here, it's fascinating that he was learning in the Gemara about Chana, something that we don't, like, it's not the question, I mean, when I learn the Gemara, we're learning that just to teach
a little tzad.
Correct. And he seems to be learning that, no, that's like, she's like revealing the whole, like the entire sort of tefillah, meaning that before her, they weren't doing it out loud. Why? Makshava, and something, she changed something for us. Which is a fascinating idea.
It's a very fascinating idea, and I would even take it deeper and say that the evolution of godliness in this world was brought to a new place by Chana. That maybe even Avram Avinu didn't do.
Malchus.
In other words, that as a history unfolded, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Shvatim, Nevi'im, Chana was the Rosh HaNevi'im, as we know them. I mean, Moshe was a Navi, but the Aim HaNevi'im is called Chana. Shmuel HaNavi. A Navi means the articulator. That's what the word means. Borei, Niv, Sfasayim, Yushak. Niv. Niv means to articulate with your lips. That's what the word means. Noiv, Ir, HaKoyanim. Place of talking. So, what Chana actually did to bring a Navi into this world, Shmuel HaNavi, Eim HaMalchus, Eim HaNevuah, what she did was had to come through articulation. It had to come through the movement of her lips, because that's what the whole thing is about. She didn't just have a kid, good kid, Shmuel HaNavi. So it had to come to that. What she was davening was, let's bring the Shechina into a closer level of Malchus.
Yeah, and it fits also with Shmuel being the one who was with Dovid, Shmuel being the Navi, meaning in order to have Malchus, you need to have this first.
So, K'mosh Haber Rabbi Say, let's just finish the 1 minute. K'mosh Haber Rabbi Say to Zal, the Zayar I explained out loud. K'mosh Haber Rabbi Say to Zal, this is all found in the Gemara in Sanhedrin Samachay. Akibas Svasav Have Maisa, that the Gemara says that moving your lips is called a Maisa. In Hilchos Maisa, moving your lips is a Maisa. In Parakol Kisvei, Gemara in Shabbos, Amr B'nai Dibur Kemaisa, Shenabar, etc. Dibur is Maisa. Dibur is Maisa. V'hu b'chinas ha-nefesh shebedibur. Everyone knows everybody knows who learns Torah deeply, that it's not about reading. There's nothing like learning with a chavrusa, or if you're zocha to give a shir, or even speaking it out like the Sibri Tzis Mitzrayim. If you haven't got kids, and you haven't got company, and you haven't got a wife, so just even talk about it yourself. There's something about the Chituch HaDibur which makes it clear. The reason for that is because you brought it into the world of Maisa. Let's bring it to the world of mitzvah. There's clarity in the world of mitzvah which doesn't exist necessarily. I know a lot of times, like I'm thinking something, and then what I go to say it doesn't even hold water. Or I'm not clear about something, and if you say it, it becomes clear. I always wonder if it's a good thing to talk about your problems. If you talk about your problems, you can end up suicidal. It becomes very, very clear. Maybe sometimes you leave something in the world of machshava, not everything. Nicht outstuff in our Israel. I feel. I just even shalabayis things. Like the convention is just talk and talk and talk and talk. Everybody should talk and talk. A lot of those talkings are very hurtful. Maybe it's maybe it's better sometimes that things should be dvar shibboleth. I'm not giving psychological advice. I'm just saying that I find a lot of times just when two people are talking, I feel like saying I think you should just shut up. Not everything has to be spoken. But the reason for this is the reason why things should be spoken or shouldn't be spoken is because la mitzvah, when you're speaking it becomes very, very real, for better or for worse. So the deeper, I know even if you're learning and you speak, it's clear. So some people say write. I don't think writing is the same. Ksiva lav kedibur babish. Writing is better. You're bringing something into the world, but it's not as strong as deeper. So just one second. So I just want to say this. Let's just end off at this point. That in dibur itself, there are two halakim. A very important deep point to end off with. There's the point of machshava and the point of dibur. Machshava, dibur, and the point of mitzvah. So says Rabbi Haber that the articulation, the actual akibas svasav, is the lemaisa of the dibur. If you would daven in help me with the word, as a ventriloquist, if you would daven as a ventriloquist, not move your lips, you're not yotze. Even though it's dibur, but it's not akibas svasayim. So the hechatimsa is not important because in my dibur gufa there's two halakim of it. There's the dibur and there's the miisa of the dibur. And if you don't get as far as the miisa of the dibur, you haven't brought it down to this world. Kavanah halev ba'atevus beis habirasam u'bechinas haneshama shebedibur. So the kavanah is the neshama. So what do we have here? The new insight in Kalamar b'lasaper b'yitzias mitzrayim. I'd like to go further in this But I want to finish this piece. But the getting back to the Reb Tzadok, that the geula is very lemaisa. The geula is here. The geula is not only up there. The geula is the world has changed, and therefore it has to be a marble saper b'yitzias mitzrayim. It needs a sipur. It needs lemaisa. It needs miisa. Miisa comes out of the sipur. So therefore, afilu kulanu chachamim, kulanu nevodim, kulanu b'yodim esater chachma b'ino das. Mitzvah later l'saper b'yitzias mitzrayim. You got to let's talk about it. Let's just talk about it, and that's something that we should be talking about.